Life was 50 points off the track, baby.
In Japan, where the sun will always shine, traditions collide with the future's line. Through city streets and temples high, find your story beneath the sky. Waves scratch, pumping our sense, harmony flows to the best of lands. In the neon glow, where is spent, the culture rich, where reason stands. Even more no grace, we'll dance the night with every star, a guiding light. In Japan, where the sun will always shine, traditions collide with the future's line. The cherry lanes and
Well, I just
soaring
got myself in a
heights,
hip
find your
valve already.
magic in the moonlit nights.
Alrighty, guys. We are going to get ourselves going. I don't know how long I will absolutely be on. I went and said, no, we're not gonna quit. Last I went, and played this was yesterday. And for any of you, there was some slight issues. Now, of course, you guys haven't seen the trip that I took from the day before. Now, of course, I take a trip in American truck and Euro truck. I always take a trip that that I always take. And if we go into our navigation, we go to world map. If we ended up taking a trip all the way down to here into Mexico. Now of course we haven't gone all the way into Mexico, but you know, I took a trip down to here. There was some hiccups getting it down into here though. And I also going to share with you guys company garage manager. This has been upgraded down here. We have not upgraded the International Lone Star. Was bought for it, but we're gonna go to company. We're gonna go and get ourselves a new driver. Hopefully they don't get in trouble by ICE, which they shouldn't. I shouldn't, because this isn't like getting in trouble in America. But we're gonna check here. Of course, we're gonna take this job. We're gonna take this to get going into places on this beautiful Sunday. Now, of course, there is a thing here today that we did got a lot of some gaming news though. Not necessarily anything. We also got no Trump news though, but if anything that comes to to it, there is absolutely a lot of things going on. Now, of course, this is the same. The same thing, but because I haven't gotten into a lot of political news, but today, but there's this thing is guys, is like I always will tell you, it doesn't matter. It's like I feel like um that there's a um there's some major things that I wanted to really share with you. Mostly, the thing of it is, guys, is like I don't have a lot, but I wanted to come in today and just play something a little bit relaxing, I guess. Um, you know, I was I was thinking of not playing anything in American truck or stuff. Um, I wasn't even thinking about getting on because, um, but I decided to get on, and because I wanted to come in and talk to you guys about a lot of in relation to talking about LGBTQ. Is the biggest thing that we're going to talk about today. Is a couple of big things. But for any of you who have sat here and probably wondering, what am I, why do I have Trump sitting here? Well, I'm just gonna tell you, it's one of those things where I just cannot stand people like him when he's basically one of the things that he wanted to do is now he's going into not Orlando, but Portland, Oregon. He's gonna go into St. Louis too, and you know, it's no. It's one of those things where, you know, ICE and all of these things, he's basically going after people that he does not agree with. And he wants to basically, they're going after people for saying that if you speak, because watching a video the other day too, I'm talking about Tizient. For those of you who don't know, you guys can look him up here on YouTube and things. But I want you to know that it's ridiculous to see the military being used for matters because of protests or because of things that it doesn't like. They're wanting to go after anybody who does not fit the narrative of what's going on in the in society, and Trump just does not sit well with me when he goes and talks about things and talks about the things that are in trouble within society. Like he thinks that that protests are wrong, and that he should be the only one that should be allowed to do it, and that they should be, you know. And I'm gonna tell you, it's like, it's ridiculous to see somebody like him. I'm absolutely tired. It's ridiculous to see him utilizing the military for these matters that shouldn't really. Uh, yeah, no, I had an acadate. Whatever, I'll deal with the 900 on that. But it's one of those things where yeah, that's really horrible, trying to really maneuver like that, but one of the things that I really look at upon on a lot of people is it really bothers me when I see things going on with it. And I know this one's really kind of tough for me to talk about because I don't know it very well. But but it's one of those things that bothers me a lot with him just doing things that don't sit well. He's wanting to end birthright citizenship. He wants to get rid of basically, and if he wants to end birthright citizenship, okay, then that means he needs to get out of this country as well, because he shouldn't be allowed to be in this country. But yet he's going to break these laws. He's going to break these rules to fit for him, and as long as it benefits him, as long as it's for him, it's a problematic. Birthright citizenship is a bread and butter of this country. You know, I don't care if a child was born here; they have the right to be a citizen. Basically, it does not just affect me. Okay, it doesn't affect me because I was born here on American soil. But it affects my family because I had somebody that was born on U.S. Air Base outside of the United States. And, you know, to me, this birthright citizenship thing is, he wants to end it, and it's just, it bothers me a lot with that as well, because it to be honest, it's like you want to get rid of people who were born here, who were brought here and raised here, and don't have any problems. Like, a lot of the stuff that he does is not pertaining to America. American values. He wants to go after people without due process, without any institution for anything. But I'm pretty sure that if they go out and pin things and find things on a lot of what's going on, there's a lot of things that go on within the process. Um, and all of this is just a problem within society where, you think you're helping society by rounding up the illegals when most of the illegals here aren't doing crime. Most people have been here for years. For years, and it bothers me because, it it's like you want to remove people from this country because you don't seem to care about anybody but yourself. You don't seem to want to fix the issue of crime by getting rid of the illegals. You don't fix it because there will, because one of the other things that I really wanted to lead into was that violence is something that happens, and it doesn't happen just by illegals being here. You think you're fixing the problem when you start getting rid of illegal immigrants. Let's say you get rid of all the immigrants from in this country. Guess what? Did you know that you're still gonna have crime? You're still gonna have those things because you start getting rid of people. For it, and you start getting rid of things that do not fit within your mold. Well, then now you're going to start having people that aren't going to be able to support your wealth because you create tariffs. Well, by the time you create tariffs, nobody's going to be able to buy these goods, and nobody's going to be able to support your lifestyle because America's is basically saying, you're losing a lot of immigrants who aren't going to be able to support your lifestyle, who aren't going to be able to support you, and you're going to have to rely on other countries, and you're going to have to rely on these things. But then when the United States people decide that they're going to say, we're just not going to pay our taxes anymore because we're not going to support your lifestyle, then he's going to be mad, and he's going to prosecute everybody, going to get rid of everybody. I always keep calling persecute and prosecute the different thing. I don't know why I do that. So I'm just going to try to use a little bit different words. Basically, when he wants to try to put people into prison because they didn't pay it's a problem. There's a problem with all of this. And why is there a problem? Well, the problem is that basically Trump does not actually. I don't get why that vehicle does not move when that light's green. But I don't get it. But it always reminds me of these things that, and it's like you look at the violence that even if you start doing that, you're still gonna have Trump's still gonna have that issue because you get rid of the illegals. These Republicans are still gonna find a way to blame somebody else for people that do it on their own side. They're not willing to own up to these things. They're not willing to fix the issues. They're not willing to fix these problems, because one of the things that that you gotta really look at the optics of a lot of things, and you gotta look at the Covenant school shooting. They basically want to continue to go out and blame trans people, and they blamed it because it did happen. But a trans person getting rid of a trans person isn't gonna fix the crime issue, because they're gonna say, oh, it's all the trans people's fault, it's all their fault, because they did the same thing. They blamed trans people on the Charlie Kirk thing inadvertently. In reality, it's like most of the time trans people aren't gonna go out there and commit a crime. Now that doesn't mean that the vast majority of people aren't going to. Doesn't mean that one or two people are going to, and they're going to paint a light in a picture to everybody. But if you are a Trump supporter, or you are somebody that supports him, and you're willing to do that, but you're not willing to tone down your rhetoric, you're not willing to change the way you think and hurt people because you think that liberals are bad people. You paint a liberal being bad, then I can start painting right people bad and start using the same rhetoric that they use, but then they go after me for using the same rhetoric that they use, because they don't care if they talk about somebody talking about the homeless people, or talking about things that not pertain to it. It's like they want to paint it, and then they don't want to go out and fix it, because a lot of times, yes, thoughts and prayers are great. Thoughts and prayers are fantastic. They can do some wonders for people, but also you have to have that action as well. You can't just rely on one or the other. You can't just rely on thoughts and prayers. Just rely on it when you can't do action. When you don't do the action, you don't put forth good gun legislation, because I'm not somebody that wants to get rid of guns, but we have to have more stricter gun laws. When there are countries out there that have stricter gun laws that that are safer, and it's one of those things that having a gun does not solve our problems by killing people, because today it was one killed and 9 injured, and the shooter was basically gone today at a church, that most of these people are going out and calling it the Mormon Church, when it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, to be more precise and be more clear. And the place got caught on fire. We don't know much more details than that, but then that don't know the motive, don't know why, don't know what was going on with it. But the problem is they didn't go after. I'm just gonna say, it's like they want to blame and find ways to blame somebody for their problems. It's like they don't have any fixes. They don't want to fix the problems within society on these gun issues. Like, we need to have some way of getting stricter gun laws so that we can make better, so that these people can have better understanding on things of protecting the mentally ill, but they don't want to put gun laws into place to prevent that. They only want to make guns more accessible, make guns readily accessible to everybody. And it's like, I was watching a video earlier today about Florida having that open gun carry. I'm like, I will never step foot in a state. First and foremost, I'll never step in a state that has anti-LGBTQ. And anti-LGBTQ is the only place that I will not stand to be in a place like that. But I'm also going to tell you that I am somebody that's on the opposite end of a lot of things. I don't want to know that you have a gun. Because there are going to be people out there that if you know that you have a gun, that just means it's readily, easily for them to access that gun off of you. Because they know you have it. It's one of those things where, it you can't fix these issues. Hold on. You can't fix a lot of these issues by trying to get the help that people need. You know? And, I am somebody that, that I think we should be able to have the right to have a gun. But a lot of things is like, I respond to people and ask. I said, then should we, like, it says you have the right to bear arms. You have the right to do that. But guess what? There's the right to bear arms does not mean that you have the right to bear arms of everything. It just says you have the right to bear arms, because when I respond to people, it's like, okay, then that means you have the right to have a nuke. That means you have the right to have a rocket launcher right in front of your own home. But nobody's gonna let you. Having a grenade, it's like, no, those things should not be happening at all in the presence of anybody. Thanks, In My Own World. Thanks for joining the TikTok live. Thank you. But one of the things that I always come in and wanted to share with you guys is that guns do not solve our problems, but at the same time, getting access to them to let people have access to them because reasons, that if you're gonna have a gun, it should be locked up in a safe. Should be used only for sporting at a gun range. Should only be used for self-defense. But we need to also make sure that those laws that we have are set to be strict, so that people don't make these problems. It doesn't mean that we can't have a gun. Okay, the Second Amendment does not say that. And we should be taking more into consideration on our gun safety and making sure that we have all of this knowledge instead of just instead what I would do is, like, in order to have a gun license, it should only be a 1-year license to carry a gun, and you should be going over, and we should basically have to renew it, and you have to go through the process of renewing your gun license as if you were being a new gun owner. We should basically making sure that you can drive a car, and you have to get a license renewed. You should be able to get that thing done, checked every year, making sure that you're right, making sure that you're able to be in tip-top shape and not just, same thing. It's like, with this gun, they don't care. They don't care if guns are out in the population. They don't care. But then they go out and complain about left-leaning people doing crime, killing somebody like Charlie Kirk. But yet they won't. But when they see somebody that's a right-leaning person, they don't blame it that it's on the right. They blame the left. They consistently blame, but they don't want to own up to that their party makes mistakes, that their party makes problems. They don't want to own up to it. And this is the whole issue with all of it, is that they don't make these things apparently right there at edge, point and point. They don't make these things on the right that they really just got rid of a thing where majority of it is coming from the right. They got rid of that that study that was done on the right, and predominantly they don't care. They don't care that they do create the violence. They don't care that they do it. It's basically they can do no wrong. They can create the violence all they want, but when it comes to the left, they want to blame the left for everything. They want to blame the left on all of these things when they don't want to own up to their violence. And it's all part of the guys. All of this stuff that's going on. Actually, you know what? I know it's gonna tell me. Just tell me I'm not gonna get. Into any problem because I missed. I'm glad I'm able to rotate back around. Round. And so that they don't, hey Glass, it's, the whole point of all of these things is, all of the things that you're seeing now within the world, within everything, is just part of the second coming, and we just know that we have to stick to what we know and what's going on, and just know that we stick with God and we stick with Him, and not fall into some of these traps and fall into believing everything that's being said on the internet. Don't believe the Onion and all these other places that you might find. Thanks J Money for joining the TikTok live, and you got to really think about what can we do as a society to come closer, working together, instead of just putting people down because they made a problem with things going on in each state. They're like they don't, like, a lot of people don't realize that anything can happen in your home state, anything can happen in your state of mind, that, not state of mind, but anything can happen in your home state. Violence happens everywhere. And you think, it's not gonna happen in your state. Well crap. You gotta realize that St. Louis, Missouri, if they were going out there and complaining about it, then if they're saying that, their state's so bad, but then why is Missouri so much a red state? Why is Missouri always a red state? They don't care. They don't care about the process in. They don't care about the process when it comes to their state, but yet they blame the left all the time. I know I'm like, they will blame California for saying that they have the highest crime rate or whatever, but yet they don't realize that California is the number one. Could if California broke off the United States, California would be the fourth most valuable country in the world, because these people don't understand a lot of what goes on. They don't see the issue with all these things. They don't see that, you know, you start alienating a state. That state can choose to not support you. That state can choose not to support you as a as a state. They can just not pay the $80 billion in taxes every year that would go to supporting free school lunches for everybody in California. If California decided to do that and said, we're not gonna pay the government, we're just gonna implement free school whole lunches for everybody. You know, this is why I'm one of those places that I stand within these blue states more than I stand with these red states. And I'm not saying that there's issues. There's a problem. You know, we have the farmers. Soybeans. Where are all the soybeans being taken away from? You know who was the biggest predominant buyer of soybeans? Was China. And now China's buying it from Brazil, buying it from other countries. They dropped off from not buying from America. Like, they buy products from us, we buy products from them. And yet they don't. Yet they are being alienated because of Trump and the tariffs and all of these things. You know, and it's one of those things where it happens, and it just happens to be falling on us as consumers, that we have to pay these prices. We, not him, not the country, not these other countries. We pay for it. And we are paying for him to have the lavish lifestyle that he wants. But yet he does not want to help those in need, because he only cares about himself. And that's what Trump wants. You know? So first off, then, you know, he should be impeached by now. He should be an impeached. He should be right out there, full front, and impeached. Because you're not protecting the soybeans, because when the biggest donor is China buying from us, and we buy from them. It's like, yeah, there are problems elsewhere, but that's just one of those things that is there. But getting off of the political content and stuff, I'm not really wanting to get into a lot of that. But for those of you, recently a game of mine that I absolutely own on the PlayStation, I pretty much own it, and it's one of my favorite games, and that is Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, for those of you, Final Fantasy Tactics was released back in 1998, 1999. It was one of those games that revolutionized me interested in tactics games. You know, and they have released it twice. Again, the second time they released it was for the PSP, the War of the Lions. And then they released it again for the third time in the Ivalice Chronicles. And so one of the things that really takes into consideration with a lot of video games is I just love video games. It's one of those things where I was gonna get in today and play some Borderlands. And today's supposed to be Borderlands, but then I got this thing that I wanted to talk about actually, that's taking me off. I don't need to go to El Paso, Mexico. And technically, I don't know if that's El Paso. Actually, no. Why am why are we going from here? Why did we go into the United States, down here to do that? I don't get it. This one, I don't get why we had to go into the United States and then plop into this way. It's okay, it's whatever. Um, we'll deal with it. But one of the things that I wanted to really share is that there's a lot of problems. Not a lot of problems. There's a lot of things within video gaming that just really make me nostalgic for these things, like Borderlands. Like I sat down and I started playing Borderlands Game of the Year edition. It just brought me back to reminding me of playing with Scarlet, playing on that um um it brought me joy in games like that. And there are a lot of games out there that I know I am gonna wait until it's green. Okay, I'm not gonna sit and wait. There we go, finally. But I always go out there and look at these things with these games that, you know, I reminisced on watching Final Fantasy Tactics. Like I went and wanted to really take into things where, not take into things, but take things that I've seen modern, like this tactics game that just reminds me of playing this back in the day, playing these games that really bring me a lot of joy compared to like a lot of games that actually bring me more joy than Call of Duty, to be honest. You know, Final Fantasy brings me joy. It's like I go could have finished Final Fantasy 9. I should have finished Final Fantasy 9 before I switched over to Linux. And should have fixed a lot of those things, but unfortunately I can't go back on it. So I will just basically, maybe we'll come back to it at some point, but I'm just, you know, Final Fantasy, like seeing Final Fantasy 8 just reminds me of that time when I played it for the first time. You know? You know, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10 are all of the games that I absolutely have the ranking of high praise for these games. Like, after 13, I'm kind of like, eh. See, the thing is, my all-time favorite is Final Fantasy 12, and Final Fantasy 12 is a lot like the old tactics, like the old turn-based style of Final Fantasy, except with MMO-like style, but in a turn-based RPG, and I liked that. I liked about 12, and that's kind of where, you know, I love those games where I can see the characters, who I'm fighting against, who I know I'm going up against, and escape like 12. That's why 12 is so much regarded as my all-time favorite Final Fantasy. One of my all-time favorites. 8's an all-time favorite of mine too because of the music. You know, like there are 10 music soundtracks out there that have really put put it into absolute 100% great music for soundtrack wise. Top 10 Final Fantasy, all 10 of those um have been absolutely um the best soundtracks of all time. You know, and I'm not talking about games like Guitar Hero Rock Band or anything like that, because those are songs that are not pertained to games like to our games, but their music was created before they were released into a game. But to be honest, um, music has really inspired me a lot in my life, and going in and playing Final Fantasy and playing Final Fantasy 7, like Final Fantasy is just one of those musics like 7, 8, like are like the pinnacle of Final Fantasy. Like Nabu Uematsu is absolutely one of the greatest musicians, greatest creator in the music industry. He's regarded as one of the best. He's created Final Fantasy 1. He created almost every as one of the best. And a lot of my top 10 pretty much really reflect Final Fantasy. And my top 10 soundtracks from video games, just in video game soundtracks, um, you know, it takes a lot for me to put in. Like, Call of Duty is not even on this list for greatest soundtrack of all time. I am I am gonna tell you, like, yes, Call of Duty has great audio and great things, but they're never, to me, regarded as the one of the greatest soundtracks, because to be honest, there have been games that have better soundtracks than Call of Duty, and it's not just Final Fantasy even. To be honest, like um, you know, there's some of the other games that I actually enjoyed for music and soundtrack wise that I'd actually sit back and listen to. Um, you know, mostly I sit down, and if I was listening to anything, mostly it is Final Fantasy and stuff. But and I really will say, like, the PS1, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12 are all soundtracks I would absolutely listen to. Tactics is another one. Is another one that's not on this list, but I would still listen to. But most of all the soundtracks that I mentioned outside of Tactics, are games that I absolutely listen to consistently. I could listen to them all on repeat, but there are other games out there that just have that nostalgic feeling, and those games do include, uh, Spyro's got like a good soundtrack, um, but if it had to actually be ultimate soundtrack, it's like those are the soundtracks that I like. But it's not all because there's actually some of the soundtracks that I actually have, um, you know, that are mostly it's all RPG style of games. It's nothing, uh, out of it. Like Legend of Dragoon, fantastic soundtrack, fantastic game. For it's one regarded as one of my favorites. Like if you have not played an RPG of some sort, you're missing out on a lot. But it's not all of it. The other one, the 10 soundtracks of all time, Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9, 10, and 12, and are the best Final Fantasy are the best Final Fantasy titles out there. But the other soundtrack, the other within my top 10 soundtracks do include do not include Final Fantasy. We actually, my favorite one is the City Skylines just basic soundtrack. That is absolutely just a fantastic. Just the way that they get all of their soundtracks for their radio stations, things that just phenomenal, you know. But The Sims, like The Sims 2, phenomenal soundtrack for it. Like, I absolutely marvel at all of these things. But there's a lot of it. Even 13's a great soundtrack. Like I will tell you, like, these are games that I would sit down and actually put on repeat. That I could put on repeat all day long, and I would not have any problems. Not doing that. But there is another game that absolutely is not a Final Fantasy title. And I'm not talking that there's another one that I could put on repeat. And that's the 1080 Avalanche soundtrack. Like, it's not my 1080 Avalanche is not my all-time favorite, is in my top 100 games I've played in my lifetime. Would be right there in my top 100. But isn't going to be regarded as the top 10 video games of all time. A lot of my top 100 games, Call of Duty is on this list, but there are some other things. But 1080 Avalanche is a great soundtrack that I could put on to listen on repeat. And you know, there's a lot of things that that just really give me joy in a lot of my music collection. And there's a lot of good soundtracks out there, but those are just the ones that I tend to listen to a lot, and that. But there's a lot of good soundtracks out there. There's, you know, I'm trying to think of, like, the Halo 2 soundtrack. Like, I absolutely loved the Halo 2 soundtrack. There's a lot of games out there that have just that profound. When a soundtrack is created, if that soundtrack is just encompasses a lot of good music, it really makes that. Age of Empires is another great soundtrack. Like, music is just one of those things I love. And speaking of good music, you guys need to go and check out Retro Wave. Go look up New Retro Wave's channel. You will thank me on that. But anyways, guys, we will catch you guys later. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we get into Borderlands, because I want to get back into Borderlands tomorrow. I'll probably we'll see. And then also tomorrow we will, or but also tonight, if you guys want to see some Modern Warfare 2 tonight, we'll be playing that. As soon as I get all done with all the Modern Warfare, all the Call of Duty titles, for multiplayer specifically, I am going to will go in and rank every Call of Duty multiplayer for it. But I will tell you, these are going to be based on a lot of factors, but we'll get into that at some point too. But I'm doing that, so if you want to see Modern Warfare 2 tonight, you guys can hit that follow, hit that subscribe here on YouTube, Trovo, TikTok. Remember, following on those on Trovo and TikTok are free. YouTube is not. YouTube does not have a follower. It's called a subscriber. Subscribing is free here on YouTube. Make sure that when you do subscribe here on YouTube, you hit that bell notification with the all, because it really does greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy this video or live stream, however you guys want to do it, hit that like as well. And we'll also tell you that I'm going to change the title after this too, because I just quickly did things. I'll probably just shift it around a little bit and stuff. But if you guys want to support me a little bit and pay a little bit and watch some past live streams here on TikTok, you guys can do so. I mean, on Trovo, you get some cute cat emotes that will probably most likely come over to YouTube here as well, if I can do that. But it's one of those things that we can do a lot of things for it. And then I'll tell you, the last thing I'm going to tell you on all of this is you guys can check out all the links down below, there, for you guys. And we will catch you guys, later tonight about 9 o'clock. Tomorrow, if you aren't able to make it, tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Remember, night streams are only are not here on YouTube. They're exclusively on TikTok.